Another week. It's the XFL Markcast. Paul Sanchez.
Reid Johnson here.
You need to say your name with more enthusiasm. It's kind of, come on, man.
Well, I just try to be a little casual about it. Try to be a little more casual, Carl.
Casual Carl. So it's what's the week that we're in now for our podcast? Week number 6.
Week number 6.
Yeah, Cardell Jones blocked you on Twitter.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. You were saying that you didn't know. You were saying, hey, where do we want to start today? And I'm telling you today, Paul, you're the captain of this ship. I tried my big plan, get Cardell Jones on the podcast, failed spectacularly on, I think on every front. I don't think it could have failed more if we had tried. So today, yes, Cardell blocked us on Twitter, all accounts on Instagram. And we were talking before the show, YouTube views on the latest episode demonstrably lower than any other episode thus far.
So would you like to go on record and say Cardell Jones can't draw a dime?
I will say that, and I will say without a doubt, Cardell Jones does not listen to the Markcast at all.
Can we remove that shirt from xflshow.com/merch then?
No, I think we should keep it up for posterity for a little while. See how we do.
Maybe change it up and make it say Cardell Jones doesn't listen to the Markcast.
It does not at all. Yeah, emphatically no.
It does. I didn't even mention him on my verified account, and I got that account blocked too.
Yeah, it was crazy. So no, I mean, I think we tried the shenanigans. I think we got a lot of news to talk about today. But yeah, I mean, really just failure on all fronts, on all parts. So
you also got a special delivery. You showed me on Instagram. Do you want to pull that out here? Well, what you got in the mail, please.
So while I'm still waiting for our official XFL Markcast gear to come, which I believe will come tomorrow. I got the email that my hats are coming tomorrow. I did get finally my official XFL Dragons football. It's awesome. I got it on eBay.
Not holding it correctly, but it's fine.
There we go. Kidding. I don't play football, but I got it, and I'm thrilled. I got it next to my office, and it's exciting. It's good times, and I'm glad I have this. I was going to buy it during the season, and then I didn't. And with everything coming back, like I said, I found it on. There's a great seller on eBay. He's got like a bunch of old stuff too, like old Hitman jerseys and like a He Hate Me jersey.
Is it Vince McMahon?
Yeah, it's Vince trying to, yeah. Well, Van will tell you, Van the man, our number one fan, will tell you that, he's still trying to track down all the old XFL merch because there was like merch that didn't sell. And Van thinks that there's like a truck somewhere on the side of a highway that's got a bunch of old XFL merch. But yeah, they're sold out in the XFL store. But I got this on eBay, and it's a great find. I'm really happy about it. So I'm going to go put this back now.
Okay. Well, there you go. Reid has a Dragons football. He's wearing his Dragons jersey. He's got a Dragons jersey hanging up. Reid is the ultimate Dragons mark today on the XFL Markcast. I even added my old LA Wildcats shirt right there. I'm not going to go out and buy a He Hate Me jersey on eBay. I don't think it's funny, but nonetheless, I don't think I'm going to do that. So.
Yeah, so I was asked offline earlier this week from our friends Paul Williams and Michael, and they said they were curious what your football team was. They said, "Hey, we're listening to the Markcast. What's Paul's team?" And I said, "Well, he bleeds red and yellow for the Wildcats," and that's it. Yeah, I didn't think you had another team.
I don't have another XFL team. I have an NFL team. I do support the Seahawks, so I'm still true to what that, but in terms of XFL team, this is the only LA team I really root for, really truly, because I'm like, I've traveled so much that when the XFL got announced, it just kind of made sense. Like, okay, I'll root for an LA team, and of course, I know the branding was probably trying to play on the USC a little bit there, so it's kind of weird to have red and yellow USC colors in my house. But yeah, of course, LA Wildcats all the way,
red and yellow, bleeding it
all the way. As long as they keep Cardell Jones off the team, we're okay.
Yeah.
So I'm starting like a gimmick kind of thing with Cardell, where I'm just like, stop being so sensitive.
I'll tell you, it's I think any XFL player would be happy. And like the thing is we paid him for the cameo. Like he got paid for the cameo and then got like mad about it.
Like, I know, and it's not like we're disrespecting him. Like it was just like, hey, like we're fans. We're fans of yours.
Yeah.
And You're going to act like that? Like,
crazy.
Don't be his fan. That's all I got to say about that. Let's move on.
It'll be the last time it's he that shall not be mentioned. That's the last time I'm ever going to say that name on the podcast.
We're done. Speaking of craziness, though, in the NFL, did you see Jamie Collins? What happened with him?
Yeah, so I saw this morning, and it's crazy that he was trying to show the ref what he got. Someone had a low tackle or tried to headbutt him, and he got thrown out of the game. Talk to me about this.
So, they have all these social distancing rules right now. And, NFL coaches are also, they're watching NFL coaches closely to make sure they're wearing their masks. Did you see Andy Reid's visor on the Chiefs-Texans game on Thursday night? He had like this visor that was all fogged up, made him look like Iron Man. They're making sure that these social distancing guidelines are adhered to, which is kind of hard to do in tackle football. But Jamie Collins just kind of ducked his head down to show the ref what was going on, ended up coming into a space and actually ended up bumping the ref, which is a no-no. Even incidental, unintentional contact, you can't do that. So Jamie Collins got thrown out of the game. He's probably going to face a fine and a suspension for even touching a ref. And during these times of, social distancing, you can't do stuff like that, especially in the NFL, unless it is, of course, to tackle another player. Can't exchange jerseys, but you can tackle other players. It's completely acceptable.
Well, the other thing that I thought was interesting about this is, so I originally saw this on Twitter because I had weddings like every day. I didn't get to watch any of the football games. Even Thursday we had a wedding, but they had and I don't know what show or internet thing it is, but Dean Blandino was on there talking. It was one of the clips I sent you, and he was famously the head of like the officiating at the XFL, right. And I thought, there's just what if he was a commissioner? Would he come back? Would he come back to the XFL? What's he doing now?
I don't think he's doing anything.
I mean, he's talking on Twitter about Jamie Collins getting thrown out of a football game, but I'm saying, like, really, what's he? That was my idea.
Well, does Dean Blandino want to be a villain? That's my question now, because commissioners of sports are villains. Kind of like how we're talking about Vince McMahon. Being a villain during the, as the owner being the villain. Commissioners are villains. For example, I'm going to bring up another sport. Rob Manfred wants to permanently expand the amount of teams in the MLB playoffs to 16, which we're dealing with it for this year because of the shortened season. We're like, okay, let's let more teams in just to get more of a season in. But he's talking about doing it permanently. And the problem is like the big knock on the NBA is you have 32 NBA teams. And 16 of those. Wait, do you have 32 teams? I might be wrong. We might have 30 NBA teams. Forgive me for a second.
This is the XFL Markcast. This isn't the NBA Markcast. Bear with us here.
Oh, we have 30 NBA teams, and out of those 30 NBA teams, 16 make the playoffs, which means less than half the teams don't make the playoffs. That's crazy to me. And now Major League Baseball is talking about going the same thing. It kind of feels like the regular season becomes irrelevant at that point. I think 5 or 6 is the perfect number for any sport. The NFL does it. I think now they do 7 now. I think they always add like a team every 5 or 6 years to kind of round it out. And it's like, let's keep it as exclusive as possible in terms of number of teams. But does Dean Blandino want to be that evil guy? And I'm not saying Oliver Luck was evil. Oliver Luck did a lot of great things for the XFL. We don't want to say that at all. But commissioners tend to become villains. It's just a natural progression. So does Dean Blandino want to do that? He'd be great for the sport, but does he want to do that?
Well, the last thing we saw of Dean was it was the Dragons Roughnecks game with the 3 seconds left on the clock when PJ Walker didn't understand how to throw away the ball, and all the players left. And they got Dean on, I think it was on Fox or Fox or ESPN, whichever one, and the announcers got him on, and they go, Dean, there's still 3 seconds left in the game. And he said, I don't know, the game's done. And so that was the last any of the XFL fans saw of Dean Blandino. But I'm just saying, we're talking about, bring back Jeffrey Pollock. We're talking about, commissioners. We talked last week about the XFL News Hub article talking about all the different commissioners. I was just saying that's someone that's been with the sport, and he's still relevant, and he's not Oliver Luck. So
very, very it's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. We have Empire Sports Med beat writer for the Liberty Jets and NASCAR and former Guardians beat writer Geoff Magliocchetti coming up, talking about potential issues with the Guardians going forward. But one thing I wanted to bring up was the Tampa Sports Authority involvement in the Vipers XFL, the bankruptcy case. What did you know about this, Reid?
Well, and so I was listening again, and Mark was talking about this on the podcast too, on the News Hub. It's interesting because Tampa's coming out and saying that they're owed $30,000 for each of the 3 games that weren't played. You know, the XFL had, 5 home games apiece, and they had played 2 home games at Raymond James Stadium, and then there was 3 more. But what's interesting about it is, if you're the XFL and, we've talked about relocation, moving it to Orlando, moving, whatever, getting out of Tampa. If you're not interested in doing that, then you just say, well, forget you guys. We're not going to pay that. But the fact that they're kind of going through all this means that potentially the XFL would still be interested, bubble or not, to remain in Tampa next year, or whatever, but still keep that the same way they did with, the Houston, with TEDCU or whatever stadium there.
University of Houston Stadium. That's the easy way to go about.
Well, but I like to be, precise, Paul.
That's still precise. That's where the University of Houston plays.
But anyway, it shows that they're still interested in maintaining the relationship with them, which I thought was good. So
hopefully this legal issue gets cleared up. Maybe that's part of the agreement. Like maybe hold half the bubble in Houston, half the bubble in Tampa, and that way Tampa gets their money. Maybe that's the solution. But can we change the colors on the Vipers?
No, I like having my eyes bleed when I watch the games.
That's so terrible. Just horrendous, man.
Well, it was even so bad that because some of the ones was Taylor Cornelius, and you'd see his eyes, and it almost kind of looked like a viper because the green, sometimes when you get that, the light bouncing back, and you're like, wow, he really does kind of look like a viper because it was just so much neon green reflected on everything. It's
kind of like how if you poorly light a green screen, sometimes the green will reflect on your skin if you're really pale. And I know a lot of people aren't getting tans right now because of COVID. So I've seen a lot of YouTube videos. I'm looking at you, Simon Miller, over at What Culture, where that green tint is showing up in your skin. Get into the sun or get into a tanning booth, sir. Got to stop that kind of stuff.
Also, I know about poorly lighting green screens. I am the king of poorly lighting green screens for my video.
Is that your weakness?
That is my kryptonite. Honestly, is the green screen lighting. That is my kryptonite. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Can't do it.
I'm going to have to show you how to do something.
Can't do it. Yeah.
Incredible.
It's incredible.
I say this as a compliment because I've always said on record to numerous people who've asked me, I was like, Reid's a better photographer than I am. And I've constantly given Reid that credit. So for me to have at least one thing I could say I could do better, it's kind of a badge of honor, but yeah. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that W. As limited as they come, I'm going to take that.
Winning Emmys and green screen lighting, I'll give them to you.
Coming up after the break, coming up on the other side of this, I should say, I don't want to say coming up after the break, but coming up on the other side of this, we're going to talk to Empire Sports Med beat writer Geoff Magliocchetti. He's going to talk about the Guardians issues and going forward with the Rocks ownership coming up next.
That's a $5 name if I've ever heard one.
Hey, there he is.
Hello.
How's it going?
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
We appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh, happy to help.
Yeah, we just wanted to bring you on to have you chat about the XFL. What you think? What are your thoughts going forward, and especially when it comes to the Guardians?
No, it sounds amazing. I'm glad to be here. Happy to help.
We're glad to have you on. So we've been fans for a while. We're both season ticket holders of LA and Seattle, respectively.
Ooh.
And we noticed our attendance numbers were solid, but the Guardians weren't as solid. Do you know what was going on with that during the year? Is it the venue? What's going on?
Yeah, I think one thing it's particularly in the New York area, you might understand this kind of bit too, Paul, with so many teams in Los Angeles. I think there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, I think, in some cases. And I do think New York does suffer from that sometimes in some cases. And, I think, you would expect maybe there would be a boost because, New York is so desperate for winning football. I mean, look at Sunday and Monday. I don't think we have to. The less said about the Giants and Jets, the better. Let's just leave it at that at this point. But I'm sorry, Gangrene and Big Blue. I'm sorry. I don't mean to pile on, but you have to look at what's going on in February at the time. You have hockey playoff, not playoffs, but it's deep enough in the regular season. Same with basketball. I think New York personally will always be a basketball town because it's the one place where it's like one of the few places really where basketball is ingrained into the culture, if that makes sense. The courts are local landmarks. That's the way I see it. So
the Rutgers, yeah,
Rucker Park, the Cage, everything. Like it's part of the culture that's ingrained. And I don't mean to go off topic. I apologize. I'm just
it's all on topic.
Oh, great. But I do think, and the sheer number of teams in New York too. There's 3 hockey teams, there's 2 basketball teams, the 2 baseball teams are getting back into the groove of things. And how can I forget? There's 3 basketball teams. You got to talk about the New York Liberty as well. They do a fantastic job over there. So I think that their season just ended too. It's unfortunate, but I think there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. I think one way to boost attendance numbers in a way, maybe not so much in the sheer number, but in terms of sheer excitement. Embrace the New Jersey aspect of everything. Having a team in New York does seem to be kind of like the it's essential almost. I feel to have a team in both New York and LA. There's a reason those 2 were the markets that came back from XFL 1.0, XFL 2001, where you had the Hitmen and the Extreme, and now you had the Guardians and the Wildcats, respectively. So I feel like having a team in New York is essential because it's the media market, it's the city. If you can make it there, you can make it everywhere. Welcome to New York. It's been waiting for you, to quote both Sinatra and Swift. I'm a fan of both. I think that a good thing to do would be to embrace the Jersey side of things. Because look, I think we've discovered throughout the past decade plus, New Jersey has a personality of its own. It's there. It's got everything. And if the XFL were to embrace that, I think it would really be beneficial. So that's why I think moving over to Red Bull Arena would be very beneficial. I mean, look at what happened. Reid, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept over in Seattle, which is one of the more effective MLS teams over there. It's the Sounders, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They do a great job over there, over at CenturyLink. So I think they do a solid job over there. But look what the DC Defenders were able to do. They set their base of operations over at Audi Field and did a fantastic job. They had, the Cup Snake, it felt like the fans were like right on the players at the time. So I feel if they were to embrace the Jersey side of things and make Red Bull Arena their base of operations, I think things would very much move in their favor because it was the same problem in the original version too. The New York, New Jersey Hitmen were second in the original XFL in terms of attendance, in terms of numbers, but the place still looked almost empty because the old Giant Stadium, as we know, was a cavern, and it looked like there was no one there. It was second only to what the San Francisco Demons posted at what was then known at the time as Pac Bell Park. So I feel that if you embrace the Jersey side of things and go over to Harrison, I think that could really be beneficial for all sides. Embrace the Jersey side of this. Get things going, move into the right direction while still embracing your New York roots in a way.
I completely agree with that. I felt like the Audi Field decision was
awesome.
It kind of felt like they were embracing almost the soccer crowd, and not necessarily people that were into football, but like that soccer type of atmosphere. So I noticed that when we actually went to the opener in DC when Seattle Defenders. So
that's great.
It was definitely an interesting thing, and I don't mean to pile on more with the Jets and Giants, but I do want to point out that the New York Yankees did score more runs than points for both Giants and Jets combined. Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, that might be piling on Toronto pitching when we think about it after last night. But the other thing about that, now look, I'll admit I'm not a soccer guy, to be honest. I am not a soccer guy by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing I will admit, their fans are great. I like the whole thing where, they're singing and they're dancing and they're banging on the musical instruments the whole game. I like that whole thing. And that's what the XFL tried to embrace. I thought that was solidly done. I thought DC had a great thing going.
Well, MetLife's just enormous. I mean, that was the thing, is you could still put 15,000 people in there and it's still, I mean, it's just such a big stadium that there was no way to ever make it look. Yeah. It's
gigantic. And it's unfortunate too, because, the other thing about MetLife, while I think it's it's luxurious. The staff is great. Everyone does a great job over there. the thing about MetLife is that unfortunately it's too generic, and that's kind of what I was thinking watching the Sunday Night Football game between the Cowboys and the Rams. And you see SoFi Stadium. It looks fantastic. It's like it's futuristic. And you look at the other places around the league that have cost so much as well. Places like Atlanta, for example, too. Las Vegas. I mean,
Jerry World.
The state, yes, Jerry World too, as well. You want to talk about Vegas, which opens on Monday? That place looks like Palpatine's lair from The Rise of Skywalker, but at least it has some personality to it. I'm sorry, unfortunately, what North Jersey has been blessed with is basically what amounts to a giant radiator on Route 3, and it's unfortunate. That's the aesthetic of it, unfortunately. But I feel that if you go to Red Bull Arena, you can embrace the sense of, I'll put it this way, the sense of elegant silliness the new XFL wants to embrace.
Very, very good points. Very good points all around. When you heard The Rock was buying this thing, what did you think was the initial future for the XFL?
Well, I wanted to know I wanted to smell what The Rock was cooking. That's for darn sure. But no, and I also think another great move would be let's rename all the teams after Rock movies. So Seattle can be renamed the Scorpions, for example, named after, of course, Scorpion King. I feel like I'm the one person in America that still remembers that movie, but here's what it is: The Mummy Returns, Scorpion King. I mean, you can name Jersey the Fast and the Furious, the Jersey Fury. There you go. But I digress. Of course, some team is going to get stuck with the Tooth Fairies. Unfortunately, maybe you'll have Jumanjis in there.
It'll probably be LA. Let's be honest. It'll probably be LA Tooth Fairies.
LA Tooth Fairies. Hey, I think it could work. You get him on the logo, on the helmet. It would look good. But what I like about this is that there is name brand recognition for the XFL beyond just football, because I think there is a very good crossover between football fans and fans of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. See, it feels like in these divided times that the appreciation and love towards Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is one of the few things we can agree on these days. He's one of the few people that is universally beloved, and very much well so. I'm a big fan too. I mean, how can you hate The Rock? Come on. I mean, he stars in these ridiculous yet fun movies. He's very generous. He's very charitable. He's a family man. I mean, how can you not like The Rock? He personifies the American dream in every way. Pulled himself up by his bootstraps and really got things going. How can you not like The Rock? And I think that with these leagues, you always see a lot of names attached to them. Like, for example, both versions of the XFL had Vince McMahon. And you saw the Alliance of American Football. They had several well-known NFL names attached to them, and both on and off the field. I believe guys like Justin Tuck were involved in the formation of it. Charlie Ebersol was, of course, the mastermind behind the AAF. And on the field, you had guys like Steve Spurrier, for example. But none of them, all of them combined, pale in comparison to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who, let's face it, has made some good decisions over the past few years. And whether it's the terms of the quality of movie he's doing, or in terms of the box office performance. You look at the box office standings, and there's Rock movies all over the place. I mean, let's face it, he is more responsible for the what's the word I'm looking for? Rebirth, let's put it that way, of the Fast and the Furious franchise more than Vin Diesel ever could. So, and you look at and Jumanji too. That property was dead in the water for about 2 decades, and he breathed new life into it. So I think when you have a name like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, people are going to take you seriously, and people are going to know that this is not something to be laughed about. This is something that plans to be sticking around for a while.
Well, I mean, look at and we were going to talk on the podcast too, in the NFL game on Sunday, they had The Rock cutout,
Yes.
with Queen Elizabeth. And it's like, he's famous enough, they got those two together, right? And like, of anybody of all the dumb cutouts, that they had, that's who they go to, right? And then they even talked about the XFL, they said, The Rock's getting into football. But I mean, who else would have a cardboard cutout next to the Queen, and get called out on national television like that, than The Rock? I mean, it's crazy.
No, it's absolutely right. I mean, he has a universal appeal that goes just beyond mere football, and I think that's great, and it shows, and it's a good sign for what this league is trying to do, I feel.
Yeah, and on that note, do you think that The Rock's prior history with football. I mean, he did play college. He also played the CFL. Do you think that helps him in terms of putting a better on-field product out than maybe Vince McMahon could, because Vince really didn't play football that much like on the level The Rock did?
No, I think it could 100%, because Vince McMahon was just worried about putting on a good show. And for all intents and purposes, I think he did succeed in some of those areas. He was just worried about a good show and if the money was coming in. And unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond anyone's control, the money did not come in, unfortunately. So and he opted out. So I feel that, his expertise and his love of football certainly plays a factor. He knows both the on-field side of it, and he knows the off-the-field side of it too. He knows how to make the money, and he knows the entertainment value as well, being involved in WWE for a solid number of years. So I feel that, once again, you couldn't have asked for a better name than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at the helm of this, I feel.
Awesome. Geoff Magliocchetti, we thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on and talking XFL with us.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me on. Keep up the great work. Looks like you got a great operation going. I love the backgrounds, by the way. You guys are doing a great job. So keep up the great work. Would love to do this again. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
We want to thank Geoff Magliocchetti for his time here on the XFL Markcast. I want to get through some more of these news items before we depart this week. I read this article and I started kind of laughing about it. I hate to say it. NFL and XFL merging could be more realistic than you think.
This is the XFL Mark article, man. This is like, and the heat that this got online with people like, well, clearly you guys are just running out of stuff to write about. Because, and this is true be told. I was thinking about this morning. We got on this. I thought, okay, XFL's coming back, The Rock, tons of whatever. We're going to get all this news coming out, everything else. And then I think, we started, a bunch of the different sites started hiring writers and stuff. And now it's like, there is not a lot, I got a list of stuff today, but I mean, this is, cultivated throughout the week, trying to figure out stuff to talk about. And when you got writers that are trying to write stuff like every day, trying to get clicks, yeah, you start talking about NFL, XFL merger. Yeah. What'd you think?
He did bring up a point that maybe the XFL would be smart to put a team in Oakland because of the St. Louis experiment. I shouldn't say experiment. The St. Louis thing happened. It succeed. The St. Louis team succeeded. I mean, you're not going to move Seattle. You're not going to move the team out of Seattle because, of course, we've discussed how great it was to embrace kind of the soccer atmosphere. And even though the Dragons played at CenturyLink, the Sounders play there too, so it kind of still had that. So maybe, just maybe, the LA Wildcats become the Oakland Wildcats. And,
couldn't hurt, but yeah, no, it's just funny that I think that was going around some of the Facebook groups too, and people were just like, "Get this trash out of here." But it's good. I mean, we got to have content. We're waiting on content.
Not only, but like we got to converse about the XFL. We got to keep the XFL relevant. If we're talking about it, keeping it relevant is posting sometimes some takes that are completely out of left field and maybe not as great as people think they might be. But, it could be a situation where it's like clickbait, kind of maybe a little bit of performance art to suggest an XFL NFL merger. I mean, we have discussed before, the NFL didn't used to have the Skycam, and the XFL brought that in 2001. They had that Skycam on the field through the ropes, and now every NFL game, every college football game has that. So yeah, I mean, there's something to be said that maybe some of the things that XFL did in version 2.0, we'll see in the NFL. Who knows? Well,
considering that Apple, one of the most successful companies in the entire world, basically just had a clickbait event yesterday where they were saying, "Hey, let's come. We got our September event. Every September for the last 8 years, we've released a new iPhone, and then this year it's Apple Watch and iPads and no iPhones." I mean, if Apple can do clickbait, then I think that XFL News Hub can get a little pass with a little clickbait every once in a while.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair thing to say. We also wanted to discuss real quick also the Big 12. I'm sorry, not the Big 12, the Big 10. I get confused because it's not the Big 10 anymore. It's like the Big 16. It's like the Big 10 plus 6, basically. They have just now announced that they are going through with football in October. Of course, before that, the Big 10 had sided with the Pac-10 and said, we're not Pac-12, I should say. I'm Still getting used to that, Utah and Colorado. Please forgive me. The Pac-12 and Big Ten had agreement where they're like, well, we're not going to play football this winter, this fall. Sorry, not sorry. And now they're going to go ahead and play football. The Big Ten, at least, is going to play football. Do you think this potentially hurts the XFL at all coming back up in next year?
Well, I think, we had talked about pushing some of the games to the spring, some of the college stuff to the spring. So I think, obviously not doing that is going to be key, right, to the XFL success, is kind of keeping the spring free for, XFL football. But I just thought it was interesting because, this is, people are getting back to school now, colleges are going back. There was, all these hypotheticals for weeks and weeks. Now we've got the NFL in, they just did their first weekend. Are we kind of in a holding pattern for a week or two now to kind of see how cases go and everything else? I mean, I think everyone's kind of feeling it out, but I think that, more and more teams that are doing it now certainly makes me feel better about the XFL doing stuff in the spring. So
I think what happened was the NBA kind of figured out the bubble model. The MLB has kind of expanded upon it, where we did have some hiccups to begin with. We did have the Miami Marlins couldn't play. I think it was for like a week and a half after their outbreak of COVID. We had the St. Louis Cardinals also had an outbreak of COVID. But I think the deeper we get into this COVID crisis, the easier it is to figure out things like how to keep players in a bubble, how to isolate players if they've been exposed to COVID. The testing is more rampant. I think all of those things are what played into shutting everything down, is because if you had symptoms, you couldn't get tested. I mean, I had a lingering cough for 2 months. And because I didn't have any other symptoms here in LA, they told me I couldn't get tested. Come to find out, I got the antibody test and I did have COVID at a certain point. So now everybody knows someone who has actually had COVID. I didn't know I had it, but that's the truth. But now with testing being way more rampant, I went to the hospital the other day and they're like, yeah, we'll give you a COVID test while you're here, blah, blah, blah. And they, did the nose thing, which is rather uncomfortable. I don't know if you've had it done yourself, but avoid it at all costs.
I don't leave the Dragon Den here. I'm here most of the time, so I don't have to worry.
I see you working though. You're still doing weddings, and that's good that, there's still some events going on. I think people are getting more comfortable. People are figuring out how to avoid exposing themselves to this. So let's keep up the good work, everybody. And please, this isn't a political statement. Just wear the mask. If you just wear the mask like you wear your pants or your socks or your shirts, except in some areas, I guess you don't wear shirts, whatever. Just wear the mask.
XFLshow.com/merch for the sick XFL Markcast Gator mask.
We have neck gaiters, and we have also regular cloth face masks. All online, XFLshow.com/merch. Please. I almost want to start providing coupons to give you guys free masks so we can just go back to eating in restaurants and movie theaters. Please.
Maybe we could do that. Maybe that could be our giveaway. We were talking about doing shirt giveaways for reviews. Maybe we could give away masks.
Let's give away masks. I think it's a better idea. Your choice. Gator or mask. We're going to pick. Let's pick 5 people that review it. Gator or mask. You can get a free Gator or mask on us because Cardell Jones isn't taking our charity money. So let's put it to some good use, and let's start giving away some masks so we can get back to regular normal life. Please.
RateThisPodcast.com/XFL is the place to leave reviews for any of your podcasting needs. And if we get a review that comes in the next week, we'll send you a free Gator mask or a cloth mask.
We appreciate it. On the note of other sports coming back into play, NFL ratings are down. Obviously, I don't know if that's a political thing, but NFL ratings are definitely down this year. And you would be surprised because everybody wants to see the new shiny toy that's sitting in here in LA, the potential home of WrestleMania. I've lost count. WrestleMania, whatever it is, WrestleMania, LA, Hollywood. It's not Play Button because Play Button was in San Francisco.
Is it 37? Will it be WrestleMania? Is it because this year is 36? It'll be next year, right? 37.
I think this year was 37.
Because it's this spring, right? Because then next year they're going back to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
To make good. Anyone that didn't know, they were supposed to do WrestleMania in Tampa Bay this year, obviously COVID. And so they did it at the Performance Center. Yeah, had a closed set, and they said that they'll come back next year and do a make good in Tampa, which we weren't going to go to Tampa anyway. So now the fact that they've blown 2 years on that doesn't really help.
Yeah, true. And I think that's what's going to happen. I've got this pop-up ad. Thank you for that, Sephora. I'm not going to buy your products now because of that ridiculous pop-up ad. WrestleMania 37 is going to be here in LA. I thought that WrestleMania 37 was Tampa for some reason. I'm losing count because they're not naming them numbers anymore. They're just saying WrestleMania.
Yeah.
With a flag. That's all they're doing. So WrestleMania 37 is going to be here, and I'm just reading an article about some potential venue conflicts here during that weekend.
What are we thinking about? I wanted to hear about this, about the XFL or the NFL ratings. And this is what I don't get anyway, too. Like, so back in the spring, we had no sports, nothing, whatever. They bring back women's soccer. They do the big tournament. It's on like CBS All Access, right? Then they bring back like the NBA. Okay, we need sports. All I hear about is ratings being down. I know there's a lot of political stuff going on. Now the NFL's back. All I hear is, for months, NFL, we need sports. And now they're talking about how the ratings are down. Like, what is going on with this? Can you please explain this to me? I really want to know.
I do believe this is political. I'm not going to hold my opinion back. I think people are kind of upset about the political message. They want these athletes to quote unquote shut up and dribble. That's what Laura Ingraham has said to LeBron numerous times. If LeBron is just shutting up and dribbling, then he's not building a school for underprivileged kids in Akron, Ohio. Like, at this point, these athletes are doing good, and they are bringing attention to social issues, and Black Lives Matter is an issue we need to pay attention to. It is. I'm not, and if you're offended by that, I'm sorry. That's the way it is. And I understand statistics show that more white people are killed by cops every year. In terms of numbers, yes, by about 100. I get that. But we're talking per capita percentages. When you have 1,000 of something and 300 are gone, then you have 500 something and 250 are gone. You're gonna look at the percentages and go, half of that are gone. And we're not saying that everyone dying by police fire, like there are more lives that are more expendable than others. We want police, people that believe in Black Lives Matter want police brutality to stop to all races, not just black people. And I think that's getting lost in the message, is that the protests are for police brutality. They're not for black supremacy. And I think the political message is what's kind of causing the downtick in ratings. But if we just listen to what they have to say, maybe, just maybe, we can get past the idea of a political issue being the reason why the ratings are down, because that's what I think it is.
Because it's good. Yeah, I meant to read them. I meant to look into it. We're recording on Wednesday. I meant to look into it Monday and then Tuesday after Monday Night Football and stuff. And yeah, it seemed like Brady had good viewership for his game, but it just seemed like they said they were down like 2 million or something year over year, which you would just all everyone talks about is COVID. And once everything's back, like we're all just gonna go crazy. And the same with sports. Like we're just we're foaming at the mouth. Like we need sports. And then all this stuff comes back, and I just hear about like, yeah, the ratings are down. I'm like, what are people watching then? This is crazy.
Netflix, maybe, I don't know, but I do think it is a political statement that the ratings are down. Completely a political statement. So, the bubble locations have been announced for baseball. The first round series is going to be all wild cards. So basically, even if you win your division and you have the best record in baseball, you do have to play in the opening round. The wild card series are going to be the best of 3, and all games are going to be played at the higher seeds park. So basically, right now, as it stands, Chicago White Sox have the best record in the AL. They will host the worst playoff team. I don't want to say worst, but the 8th seed playoff team. 3 games in Chicago.
The least best team.
The least best team, yes. And then the ALDS, both rounds, they have a best of 5 going to San Diego, then a best of 5 going to Los Angeles. I think the reason they're doing this is because the ALDS is being held in National League parks, and the NLDS, the National League, is being held in the AL parks, Arlington and Houston. So what you're doing is basically saying, okay, this is a way to kind of make sure that people aren't tempted to actually try to get into the stadiums. If your team is, say, an AL team, what's really going to stop a Yankees fan from driving, flying out here to California and going to LA or San Diego if the Yankees get past the wild card series? Basically, now you got a situation where we're playing as it boils down, we're playing in maybe 4 cities total. The of course championship series to determine who goes to the World Series. The AL Championship Series will be played in San Diego. The NL Championship Series will be played in Arlington, and of course the World Series will be played in Arlington at Globe Life Park, which is the brand new baseball facility constructed for the Texas Rangers.
You're more of a baseball guy. Do we care at this point? I mean, does it really, and I don't say that facetiously, but I mean, does this really all this matter now with all this hoopla and cut seasons and moving stuff and delayed games and double headers and all this? Does it really matter?
Does putting bubbles,
does this season matter at all? We're just filling time?
I mean, yeah, I guess you posted it in the Google Doc that you want to use. So
no, I mean, are we filling time like as a society watching this sport, not filling time on the podcast?
I think that baseball definitely wants a World Series champion. They've had some black eyes over the last few years with Astros and Red Sox. And let me tell you something right now. If the Red Sox hadn't cheated in 2018, the Astros would have been stripped of their title in 2017. The fact that they cheated to win their title in 2018, baseball doesn't want to vacate 2 straight years of World Series titles. And you do that on top of not having a champion this year. I honestly think that this is like, baseball's like, we really need a champion this year. We've got this far. We need to make sure we ensure a full, complete season. So that's why this is definitely the plan going forward, is to make sure no more people get exposed to COVID once we get to the playoffs. And yes, you are right. The Dallas Renegades did play at Globe Life Park in Arlington. It's a beautiful stadium. I don't know why I really don't know why they moved out of it. The Rangers moved out of it. We walked by it when we went to WrestleMania.
We did. Yeah. That was a weird situation. Yeah. It's cool though. I mean, it's kind of weird. They just like took a baseball stadium and then just like put a football field. Like if you look at like the seating chart, like online, it's like, what is going on here? Like, it's so weird.
I mean, that's what they do with Oakland Alameda. They used to. They don't do it anymore now that Oakland Raiders are gone. But they used to, that was a multi-use facility. That's the last multi-use facility open in all of professional sports. And now it's strictly baseball, so it's not a multi-use facility anymore. It was always interesting to watch Raiders games in the preseason and watch like the baseball field, like, they'd stop running on grass and start running on the infield for a little bit. So it was always interesting to see that. But they're going to throw everything at Globe Life Field in Arlington to make sure that there are no more interruptions going forward, to make sure we have a champion in Major League Baseball.
I love how I am asking this philosophical question about like filling time as a society, and you related.
And I take it literally. I'm like, you mean on the podcast? I'm like, are we breaking the fourth wall here? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's funny. I wanted to get into a little bit more detail. I know we talked with Geoff about it, but about this cardboard cutout situation. What did you think with The Rock?
Cardboard. I think it's good. I think it's good exposure. And then having Al Michaels mention the XFL by name on an NFL podcast, on an NFL broadcast, I think it's great exposure. And it shows that the competition between XFL and NFL is non-existent like it was back in 2001, where Vince was trying to stir up some controversy. I don't think it goes to show that there's no competition here. Like, acknowledging one product doesn't mean, one's better than the other. And I think having The Rock front and center during an NFL broadcast is great publicity for the league, and a great, tip of the cap and saying, look, there's other football out there. It doesn't compete with us. It's not the USFL. It's not the XFL 1.0. It happens in the off season. So I think it's great to have that going on. It's not great. Poor Dany.
Yeah, I was going to talk about this too. And then I got one more thing about The Rock. This was crazy because, we had talked, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, came out that The Rock had COVID. His whole family had COVID, once they bought the league. And in those couple of weeks, he was suffering through that, and his kids and his new wife of like a year. And then, it came out this week that Dany, when she found out that she, that they won the auction, jumped into, I assume her husband or her partner, boyfriend, but jumped and tore her calf muscle. It's crazy. Talk to me about this, Paul.
Poor Dany. I feel bad. Like I just, it just seems like with the two things happening like back to back with the COVID and the I don't know, was it her Achilles that she tore when she jumped up? She injured her leg somehow.
Yeah, I thought it was her calf.
And I think her husband is a personal trainer, if I'm not mistaken. So she was probably in the right set of hands when that went down. So we want to send our well wishes to her. Hopefully she's on the mend now. I understand, jumping and celebrating. I've seen a kicker at the NFL do that. When he hit a kick, he jumped and celebrated and blew out his ACL. It's like one of the worst injuries you could have as a football player. And I was like, yeah, well, you hate to see it, but at the same time, hopefully she's better now. Hopefully she's on the mend and feeling better.
Well, remember when Vince walked to the ring at the Royal Rumble? So tore his one quad trying to get into the ring, and then stood up too quick and literally tore his other quad and could not even stand up to walk out of the ring.
And I won't speculate as to the reasons why someone tears their quads that easily. There's a medical reason for that, and we won't discuss that. But I think my silence pretty speaks volumes as to how you easily tear your quads in those situations.
I watched that event, whatever Royal Rumble that was. I watched that. I was like, this is wild. That was like somebody.
No sold it too. It was just like because allegedly I've never had a quad tear, but I hear it's painful. I hear it's super painful. And Vince didn't sell it. And when Hunter tore his one time, he didn't sell it either. He kept going through the match. I think, didn't Hunter tear one of his quads in Saudi Arabia, one of those matches? And that's why Shawn Michaels was carrying the rest of it?
Yeah.
Something happened. I mean, the pectorals and quad muscles, when you tear those, that's normally indicative of something else you are doing. So, yeah, hopefully, and I don't think, Dany didn't tear her quad, so we don't have to worry about that. But, yeah.
I did want to talk a couple more things about Dany and The Rock. The one was, so they purchased the XFL, back early August, and then the deal was supposed to, it was finalized like August 21st. And then it's been like, crickets, no word, no nothing. And then this week or end of last week, it was, oh, okay, well, the real deal finalizes on September 14th. That's when they're really like, we all really thought it was whatever. And then we all really thought it was now it really, so expect huge news on Monday. And so I had sent you the thing. I'm like, man, we're going to be set to go, Markcast this week, like freaking, blowing up all the news, everything. We're going to get 1 million subscribers. And then nothing. They got the XFL Twitter account followed one more person. It was a CFL like analyst or a CFL, someone with the CFL, but it was. I'm tracking that now. The XFL Twitter. That's the thing. That's the thing to track is the number of accounts they follow.
Do you think the XFL account will follow us eventually?
Man, if you could see the Twitter mentions, the XFL 2020 Twitter account as from the XFL Markcast, you would think they would.
You're definitely on their map. They're like, God, the XFL Markcast Twitter account popping us again. Jeez.
Well, the Dragons followed me before on my personal one back last season. So
they've followed you on your verified account.
Yes,
though,
on
right?
my verified account.
That was the key there. Having that little blue check mark does so many wonders. I love how people also, by the way, question like, who's this verified blue check mark guy with like 200 followers? Don't worry about it, sweetheart. He's got a blue check mark.
I got it.
You're not the blue check mark police. Stop doing this.
But I did want to talk about, I've seen a little bit of dissension online. I follow a lot of XFL writers. I follow a lot of XFL fans with the lack of news. And I know this is a minority, but it's the vocal minority, almost resentful about The Rock. They see them announcing like the new Under Armour shoes, and The Rock's got this new thing, and they've got like all this new stuff. And so honestly, I've seen like, and I haven't talked to you a lot about this, but like people are like, oh, The Rock's just too busy. Like he shouldn't even have bought the XFL. He wasn't going to do anything with it. I mean, obviously that's dumb, but what do you think about that?
The Rock is not going to be like a commissioner of the XFL.
No.
People need to realize that he's not gonna run the thing. Like, he bought it, doesn't mean he's gonna run it. I mean, he's not Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon owns the WWE and he runs it, but that's because he's ran it for 40 years. It's not a situation where The Rock's gonna run the XFL. He's gonna hire people to do that for him. and then have his input every once in a while. That's maybe like 5 hours a week where he's like on a conference call with someone. It's not like he's spending 40 hours a week doing just XFL stuff. So the concern that The Rock is going to run this thing into the ground or mismanage it is misfounded, to say the least. And everyone just needs to calm down, take a step back, and realize that The Rock is going to hire someone like Oliver Luck, not Oliver Luck himself, but someone like that to run the thing. So
also, I mean, The Rock has people, yeah. Like the Rock's not doing his social media. I mean, The Rock's got people. The Rock's got people to do these things. I
mean, you make $10 million a picture up front. You can hire people to do things for you.
Yeah, The Rock's not. Yeah, we're fine. But I did see that this week. I saw a little bit of like, well, they just shouldn't even have bought it. So I just wanted to put that dumb rumor to rest.
That is dumb, and stop it and wear a mask, please. I beg you. And if you want a mask, xflshow.com/merch, and of course, rate our podcast. What's the address for that again, Reid?
Ratethispodcast.com/XFL.
Rate the podcast. I think we should pick 5 people who rate our podcast and send them free masks. Gators or cloth masks, your choice. We're going to comp you for rating our podcast at that website. Again, want to thank you for listening this week. For Reid Johnson, I'm Paul Sanchez. This is the Markcast.
Well, and shout out to Geoff. Geoff, $5 last name.
Geoff, $5 last name, we should call. Geoff Magliocchetti, we appreciate your time. Sorry we didn't thank you again. We've thanked you twice now. We're thanking you 3 times for dropping in. It was a little bit of a challenge to get him here because of his schedule. He's been busy covering the Liberty. Now the Liberty season's over. Now he's got some free time and going back to covering the Jets and Giants for his online presence. So anyway, shout out to Geoff for dropping in and talking some Guardians. We'll definitely have him on again. He's a very knowledgeable guy. Love to hear from him. So again, for Reid Johnson, Paul Sanchez, this has been the XFL Markcast. See ya.
Peace.